Today, we get to imagine this world that John Lennon and Yoko Ono wrote about. We get to imagine this energy and recreate what Lynette was giving us in that dream. As we have so many speakers that are being brave and vulnerable this morning as they are sharing their personal stories with us. And not just in the vein of storytelling, but for us to learn, for us to understand, for us to empathize, for us to see that need of the world that we were just singing about, that we were just dreaming about, and realizing that together, through allyship, through strength, through courage, we can achieve that world. So right now we are inviting up Mary Ann and Drea as they come up to share their story. Will you please put your hands together for these two beautiful individuals?
Good morning, Unity. I'm kind of used to reading fiction, and this is nonfiction today, so the presentation's a little different. Could someone do my slide with my stats on it? I see the screens are everywhere. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Yeah, I used to be a school teacher, so you got to have slides, but I just did one. So it's all right. Well, since I created that to kind of give myself a perspective, and then I decided to kind of go point by point. So that's kind of why it's organized the way it is. So looking at my very brief highlights of recent 50 years LGBT history, I grew up during this era, shows my age. You can see our myriad attempts in gaining equal rights and being accepted for who we really are. Some progress has been made, yet our struggle is still ongoing against the newer wave now of demonizing laws passed in some states. And our stories will illustrate that. Today we put faces on the LGBTQ label. That was the intent of the 1988 with the creation of National Coming Out Day, you see on that list. We hope that the more of us you get to know, the stereotypes and the prejudices will fall away, or at least diminish. We need allies to support our acceptance and inclusion and diversity. We so appreciate those of you who are willing to listen and to step forward on our behalf. After creating these timelines, I began to think about their impact on my identity as a lesbian. In 1970, the first one up there where the first Pride March was going on, I knew nothing about Pride Marches. I was a graduate school in Texas. My lesbian friend and I knew no others who experienced any feelings like we did. When our teaching colleagues whispered about us being a little too close, we felt shame. And we knew that our relationship was not considered normal. We were our only allies then. In 1973, next on there, I heard no announcement that I would no longer be considered a deviant. Attitudes of people around me did not change. No allies surfaced. But in 1977, and it's my date, not up there, joining the National Organization of Women, I found allies, straight and gay, who listened. I felt safe to talk about my identity for the first time in public. And I came out. I was not condemned. I felt the weight of shame and dishonesty lift. Embracing my true self became the most important thing in my life. Yet with that joy came different struggles. I had to learn to navigate the world with caution and wariness. In many situations, I'm sorry to say I still do. After I shared my authentic self, many of my church-going relatives, my friends and colleagues, responded with disdain or aloofness. They did not ask about my personal life, and I knew not to tell. I heard of a few churches that might be welcoming, but I was untrusting by then. I looked for allies, mostly among my own lesbian tribe at that time. So in 1995 up there, Unity issues a statement of diversity. I wish I had found Unity then, but I wasn't looking. During all those years, that long list of years, 79 all the way through, all those years of marches on Washington, I marched through a number of those years and chanted, surrounded by a great number of brave LGBTQ allies, hoping for changes in laws affecting inheritance, medical leave, adoption, even marriage. We were looking for allies to pass new laws that would no longer deny us access to what other folks took for granted. At least when the marriage equality law in 2015 was passed, Drea and I had hope that we had more hope then that Georgia wouldn't pass a law targeting our marriage since it was a federal law. We have been together 39 years. Yet at every march or pride parade, my stomach lurched when a small group of people along the sidelines held up signs. And the signs said things like, "Repent or go to hell," with lots of flames around it. Some held bullhorns, angrily shouting stereotypical slurs. "Shame on you, pervert. Die, you dykes and faggots." And sadly, I saw those very signs last year in 2023 at the Atlanta Pride March. Fortunately, we and the allies present far outnumbered those folks. Thanks to y'all. We have to be brave to show up and to hold on to our pride despite the hate. And now my heart swells when I see smiling parents and church members and civic groups hoisting supportive placards and offering hugs and high fives. I feel seen and a little safer with allies' public support. When I step into our monthly LGBTQ meeting here at Unity every month and see not just friends but allies, I'm thrilled and grateful for their courage and their commitment and your message today of our support. Just standing on this platform with this opportunity to share my story and trust that you're still here to listen assures me that some of us can be of one heart and always allies for each other. Thank you.
She's such a good speaker. I thought I'd talk about my relationship to church. I considered the thoughts I wanted to share with y'all today as I tried to remember how I felt my first acknowledgement of being queer. Not that I knew what the word meant. I was 16 years old, and my friends just looked at me like I was strange. The first time telling those friends, they rejected me and said, "You can't be. You need to be locked up." You know, back in that period of time, your parents could have you committed. Thankfully, my folks didn't have much money, and so they couldn't pay to get me committed. But I did have friends. I did have friends that their parents did lock them up, and they did go through terrible things. So in that way, I was fortunate. It was like I had changed right before their eyes, as if something bad had happened to me. For in the early 70s, describing yourself as queer meant you were mentally deranged, someone not to be trusted with your children in any circumstance, let alone be a teacher or friend. What a journey I have traveled since coming out as a dyke. I look back, a snap of the finger, and time has zipped by. I verified this with Richard yesterday when I wrote him and said, "How long have you been coming to the church?" And he said, 2008. I've been coming since 2007. I thought, dang, 17 years. Yet prejudice continues to raise its ugly head in 2024, almost 50 years after I did come out. I was hopeful when we won the legal right to marry and be protected under federal laws that our civil rights would kind of shield us. Since that passage, 33 states have pushed through state laws under religious rights where we could be denied our services. A restaurant can say, "Please leave, we don't like your type." No, you can't stay at the B&B. Can't have a cake baked for our anniversary out of love if the person decides they don't like the way we are. And all other kinds of crazy situations. Now, I recognize many of you here today because I can refer to you as my church family, my friends, my family of choice. It is. Over the past Sundays, as I've listened to Richard share his message, I kept coming back to thinking about how each of us has our own story to tell. Often in my lesbian tribe, I share stories of Mighty Dyke, keeper of the lesbian secrets. They're light, fun. But today, I'm going to share a story that's heartfelt, that you helped play in healing my bitterness and angriness towards religion and church. Like I said, 17 years ago, I walked through those doors. Marianne, my partner, now she says 39 years, will be 40 coming up soon. She asked me to be open and consider going to church. She had a friend who had attended here and thought it might be a good fit because it was non-traditional. I hadn't been in a church 30 plus years. I hated church. I was bitter. I was weary of being condemned for my life for loving someone that they didn't approve of. That said, I reluctantly agreed. And when the Sunday came that I was to come here, I put on my armor, readying myself for those sideways glances and those false hugs. For what had made me angry at religion, as I had started in 1970s, I had attended an open-minded theology college. I was working towards my teacher certification. I had served as a missionary abroad. I had made the honors list, all the while as being a very out lesbian. Then Anita Bryant happened. Save our children. Keep in mind, I was a child in many ways. Religious groups now had to decide their stance on this issue of homosexuals having civil rights. My college board president triggered new policies. Homosexuals would no longer be accepted at the school or represent the school in any fashion. We, as homosexuals, would be seen as sinful and somebody that should be asking forgiveness every day to be saved. My reaction, I was crushed, I was angry, I was devastated. I would not betray myself. I left the school, I left the church of which I had been a part of many years. I slammed that door so tightly on my heart, and I declared I'd never trust y'all again. Never. But so here I am, in front of you. And again, I pondered on what to share today. I mean, there's lots of stories. But what does family mean? What does church family mean? What is an ally? What is an advocate? What is a mentor before many will be here following us? So here goes. 50 years ago today, even to present, I am called Burdick, queer, sinner of God. And how do I respond to that? The then and now? I embrace the stereotype of a dyke. I put on my flannel shirt. This is a stereotype dyke. I'm just saying. And I want you to know, this is the one that I'm wearing today that I've been wearing for 50 years. I got a closet full of them. It is as a reminder of the scars, of the hurt, the rejection of many that tore away my youthful spirit. The damage done over the 50 years of being an out lesbian is like Linus and Charlie Brown. This is my blanket. I can feel the years as if yesterday among these worn threads of time from those who rejected me and those who have embraced me. I still walk with pride, not as much for myself, but those who will need acceptance and to be embraced. Today, my message would be to the newly coming out lesbians, queer tribe, allies, advocates, stand proud, even when rejected, and it hurts like hell. You don't have to struggle alone in this digital age of loneliness. We're here. When the real safe spaces have disappeared, we're here. Consider attending here where you will be seen, heard, and loved. For those of us who are willing to stand with and for you, for who you were meant to be. Now, just a second here. I'm going to get undressed. You know, I still wear my various shirts of pride. I don't have to wear this, except on days I'm feeling a little, down. I am an older lesbian in my 70s. I have a right to be myself. And amazingly, the high fives keep coming from different age groups and different directions. And those with the sideways glances, do me a favor, keep on walking by. Why is coming out still important today? To remind each of us we belong to each other, regardless of our lifestyles and walk of life. To be an advocate, an ally, a mentor, and a friend.
Thank you so much, Marianne and Drea, for sharing. Such beautiful stories. And we can take with us as we're thinking about what Marianne and Drea shared, that whether we're on the journey coming out or on the journey asserting our advocacy and our allyship, that we all need to be brave and hold on to our pride. So Chris and Judy can share with us from another perspective, being along on the journey as a parent.
Wow. Good morning. And I guess what I'm feeling in my heart right now is just so much gratitude. This morning, I didn't think I was going to get emotional because I've been on this journey for a while. And I'm just so honored to be a part of this community. So anyway, I wanted to share a story. My name is Judy Scare, as Daniel said, my husband Chris. And we're the proud parents of a 25-year-old who identifies as a transgender non-binary. Our child Leo came out during their senior year in high school at age 17. Today we want to share our journey and highlight the importance of allyship in supporting the LGBTQ+ community. When Leo came out, we were fortunate to have many allies, the support of many allies, but it started with one at a time. One of the first people who supported us was a mother whose teen identified as trans male. And her empathy and support were invaluable to me because it was a rough road. And some additional allies also included, of course, Unity North. Leo at the time was very active with the YOU group, and this group really respected and honored Leo's identity when they did come out. Yeah, it was big. This was crucial for Leo as they enjoyed participating in YOU. And the support they received was both very caring among the leaders and very affirming, and that's exactly what all our kids need. We had a supportive medical team, including gender-affirming physicians and a gender-affirming psychologist. The teachers at Leo's Taekwondo studio were incredibly supportive, creating a very safe space for Leo to continue their practice. They even quickly created a new uniform with Leo's name on it after we had met with them and shared Leo's coming out. When Leo started college at Agnes Scott, they found a safe and inclusive environment that suited him very well. The college provided a supportive community where Leo could thrive both academically and socially. They found friends who respected their identity and professors who were understanding and very accommodating. So as you can see, it takes a very, very big village to help everyone through this process. Other important keys to being a good ally include respecting pronouns, as you've probably heard. If you're not sure which pronouns someone uses, just ask them. They will be happy that you were thoughtful enough to ask. Then use that pronoun, and encourage the others to do so. It's okay if you make a mistake, just be sure to correct it and move on, and we made plenty of mistakes. Also, it's really important, and we always want to, I think, when we're going through a process like this and trying to learn more, we want the people who are going through it to tell us about it. And what I would say, and what we were told, is it's important to educate ourselves about the experience of transgender and non-binary individuals to be a supportive ally. It's our responsibility, not theirs. It can be tough for them to bear the burden of educating others while trying to take care of themselves. Our psychologist was adamant about this. She said it's not Leo's job to educate us. It was our responsibility to educate ourselves. She was very, very right about that.
We'll see if we can do this. All right. Resources. There's local organizations like PFLAG and Transparent that offers resources and support for those wanting to become better allies. Attend their meetings can provide valuable insight and guidance. Being an ally means offering support, respect, and understanding. It's about creating safe spaces and advocating for the rights, dignity of all LGBTQ+ individuals. Yeah, no, I got it. So Judy and I, we started out as allies, but we moved into activism. I got it, I know. I got it. So we work with Georgia Equality at the state capitol to help protect LGBTQ+ rights. Just coming up on Tuesday, October 15th, there is a Georgia State hearing about transgender participation in sports. And we'll be there, yes. We're also helping 2 legislators try to get elected, our 2 candidates. Locally in Georgia, our 2 incumbent legislators voted for SB 140. And that banned gender-affirming care for youth under 18 here in Georgia in 2023. Luckily, Leo was old enough at the time, so it was well before them. And then recently, our story was included in an amicus brief for U.S. versus Scrimeti. This is a U.S. Supreme Court case challenging the Tennessee ban on gender-affirming care. I know. We saw firsthand how hormone replacement therapy was a positive game changer for Leo. Taking testosterone helped Leo both mentally and physically to be in alignment with their true selves. So, your voice matters, and you can use it to help make the world a better place. We started just by helping our own child, and now we're involved in much, much more. So if you would like to get involved, we'd be happy to help you get there. Thank you.
Thanks again to Chris and to Judy for sharing. So as you can see, being an ally or an advocate, it's hard work. It's heart work. But when we're in it together and we're doing this work together, we're never alone. And we can support each other on this journey. And so in this work, you need champions. You need strong voices. You have to let your voice be heard. We're so thankful to Reverend Richard for the space this morning to be able to share and understand and empathize. And we're thankful for the strength and the energy of Sabrina, who is championing this cause and not letting it die and sit down. So please put your hands together for Sabrina Francis White.
Good morning. As you've heard, the struggle is real, and it can continue. But you know what? The coming out process is also about a celebration of life. Because we get through it, we live through it, and we find ourselves. So for me, when I think about claiming my identity, the first person that we come out to is ourselves. We have to acknowledge who we are to be able to articulate in the world where we need to stand. And then once you come out to yourself, the next thought is, now who do I tell that's going to understand? So for me, that was my mother. Other than her, my world was books. That's where I lived, and it was a very safe place to be. You know, and I did not realize at the time when I came out to my mother, it was not till the end of my freshman year in college, and I came out and I didn't understand that it allowed my mother to come out with me. It allowed her to move from the cover of her marriage to be able to step into authentically being a lesbian. Didn't understand and didn't know that till freshman year. So when I told her that this is who I want to be, it didn't surprise her. Okay? She had been waiting and watching to see which road I would take. Her only question was, how could I be sure? So I devised a plan to answer that question. And off I went to a predominantly white, all-women's Catholic college to live on campus. Well, it was not until the beginning of my sophomore year in college that I came out. I lost friends. My Christian roommate moved across the campus. And I was ostracized by the students in my Afro-American club. We didn't have an LGBTQ plus club at that time on campus, so that was it for me. And to top it off, Mother decided to relocate to Florida. Boy, I could feel the waves of disapproving looks and the whispers as I walked down the halls or entered my classes. I felt the fear and the anxiety as I stepped into the dining room each day, trying to figure out where I could comfortably sit, where I would be accepted. Some days I decided, you know what, I just can't do it. I don't need to eat right now. I can go get something at the vending machine because it was too scary and too painful to have to face it that moment and that day. The other part for me, when I looked at that, I was struggling as an all-white school. I was already struggling, you know, as a black student. So this was just one more strike against me. And I was alone. Or so I thought. In my freshman year, before she moved away, my mother developed a habit of calling or popping up on campus to talk to my professors. And I thought, and you know, if you've ever gone away, that college year, that's the year where you're stepping into your adulthood. You really are like, okay, parents, go away, I got this. Well, nothing is more embarrassing than have the professor peek her head in your classroom and say, Sabrina, your mother is on the phone, and she'd like to know, have you put on your long underwear, and do you have your double mittens, and do you have a hat? Because it's going to be below 0 tonight. All of that adulthood just suddenly leaves the room. Okay. But as I said, my professor got the calls, and my professor said to me at one point, because she calls so often, she said, I just need to ask, is your mother Jewish? I said, no. And as I said, I thought I was alone. Mother had built an invisible system of support with 3 Jewish professors. Now I knew what the real reasons for the calls and those visits were about. Didn't understand allyship. We didn't have the word allyship. But she knew I needed support. And she knew that she was going to be 25,000 miles away. So how was I going to have her support? That was the scariest time. But I will tell you, for the remaining years in college, together, those 3 women, they served to provide me with a space, a very safe space to talk, to be heard with no judgment, and somewhere to come and feel the pain of being different. The days I just couldn't step into that cafeteria one more time. And I just needed some place to take a deep breath and know I would be able to do it again, but not today. Okay. They reinforced my mother's words to be courageous for standing up for who you are and what you believe. They even celebrated my first love on campus, which I set the whole campus abuzz about, because I figured at that point, why not? You know, I've already lost, might as well enjoy the ride. They inspired me, they guided me, and they coached me on how to celebrate and hold a space for myself in this world and not be ashamed of who I was. I walked across the stage at graduation feeling no shame, no guilt, or need to explain who I was to anyone, and I have never looked back. That is not my issue. That's someone else's issue, okay? But I have been blessed. I have been blessed that I have a family that loves me. I have created different families along my journey. I have been blessed with a love of my life for 32 years and counting. Boy. And I know the feeling of those 3 ladies that were there for me every time I needed someplace to go. They made the difference. I don't know if I could have made it through those 4 years as a black student in that college, struggling to find my identity as a gay woman, if I had not had their support. One of them happened to be the person that ran the Afro-American Club. So every time I showed up and I got the cold shoulder, I got the dirty looks, she would make a point to quietly say, Sabrina, do you have an idea? Oh, you know what, Sabrina can do that. She showed me how to be able to be a leader and to be present and to still know I counted, I mattered, and to be visible. Their strength took me through being the person I am. I don't think I could have been the whole person I am today if it hadn't been for that particular group of allies that surrounded me with their love, their understanding, and occasionally a kick in the butt when I got really scared. So it really mattered. I choose to look at the world, and I have never stopped that. For me, the world is about an opportunity to be better and to do better. And I never see the world any different because I know that today does not equal tomorrow. If we stand together, if we believe as one, if we stand up for each other's rights, we can make that change. I know it because I've seen it. I know it because I've lived it. So when we talk about allyship, it makes a big difference on what we say, how we say it, and when we stand up as one. So for me, I look at every one of you allows me to embrace who I am. This church, Richard's voice, allows a space to come that is safe, enriching, and I feel the love. It was so wonderful this morning to walk in and get the loves and the hugs and warm, smiling faces. Sometimes we forget the difference that a smile can make. We forget what a hug can mean. We forget that sometimes we're sitting in holy ground, somebody's sitting by themselves, just saying hello can make a difference. So I thank the church for everyone that is here and extends that warmth and that love, because it matters. It really matters. And sometimes somebody's struggling and you don't know they're struggling. And you could be the difference in that smile and that hug that right then takes them, that they can take a moment and they can take that breath. Thank you for bringing my breath.
Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you. As we get our hearts ready for our fourth and final speaker, there's something about the sentiment of what Sabrina was saying, that if we think about Unity North as a place that embraces people and embraces all identities, and taking that warmth and wanting to extend it beyond this community, that's what today is about, that sense of allyship that extends beyond these walls. And today, our last speaker is another champion, another strong voice. Just last year, we had a beautiful event celebrating unity and pride, celebrating coming out that wouldn't have happened without this heart and without this strength and without this community. So please put your hands together for Sylvie Drawn.
That's Nita Paris.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
I know.
I'm so sorry.
We're joined at the
I was
hip.
looking at
We're
Sylvie
joined
when I
at the
said
hip. We're dressed alike. What can I say?
I'm so sorry.
Love you, Danielle. Hey, Danielle, we all look alike.
I got you.
So thank you. Thanks for the great stories, the lived lives that you've shared, the allyship stories that you've shared. Not everybody has family allies on their journey. So I'd like to speak a little bit, just a few minutes, a little bit about my story, but more about you and the allyship that you represent in the lives of LGBTQ plus people. So from my earliest memories, I knew I was different. But I was way too young to know why or how I was different. I loved all things boy. I wanted my brother's BB guns. I wanted his G.I. Joes. I did not want a twirling baton and a Barbie. Maybe a Ken, but not a Barbie. Who would want a doll when you could have an action figure named G.I. Joe? The only action figure I ever got was a Chatty Cathy doll. How many of you remember that? Mm-hmm. She had a pull string coming out of her back. And when you pulled the string, she'd say things like, "Please change my dress. Let's play house." But her lips didn't even move. So much for an action figure. Growing up, I always had one close girlfriend. And in 1973, 51 years ago, in high school English class, I met Sylvie. And I was smitten. Over time, I began to understand what these feelings I had since childhood really meant, and I was terrified. Being raised a strict Southern Baptist, I had been taught the feelings I had for Sylvie were placed in my heart by the devil. That these thoughts and feelings were sins against God. Like so many LGBTQ folks, I prayed and prayed time and again for God to remove these evil feelings from me. Yet the feelings never left, thank God. Over time, I came to understand that I was a lesbian, and no prayers or interventions, divine or human, could change that. I was confronted with a choice to live authentically as a lesbian or to live a lie
and pretend to be a heterosexual woman. I knew what the consequences of living my life in truth would mean for me: pain, heartache, ultimately rejection from my Southern Baptist family. And when I came out to my parents, they responded exactly as I feared. Like Drea, I left Baptist churches and all religion for more than 30 years. But my spiritual roots established in me a longing to return to spiritual community. And for that, I am so very grateful. For those in the LGBTQ plus community who do not have family members who are allies, other sources of support and allyship are so very important. My experiences of leaving the church and my longing to return are not unusual in the LGBTQ plus community. Andrew Marin, a researcher, psychologist, and former teacher at the Moody Bible Institute, wrote a book entitled Us versus Us: The Untold Story of Religion and the LGBTQ plus community. And believe me, some of these stories that we've shared today could be in this book. In it, he shares the following. Reading this was an eye-opener for me personally, and I trust you'll find these facts noteworthy. 86% of people in the LGBTQ plus community were raised in church. Interestingly, that percent is higher than the American population in general, where only 75% were raised in church. More than half of LGBTQ folks leave by the age of 18. Yet 76% are open to returning to church in search of a faith community. It was affirming to see myself represented so perfectly in these research findings. The researcher also found that those who wished to return to church were less concerned with attending a so-called gay church and simply wanted to be loved, treated respectfully, and be able to participate fully and authentically in their spiritual community. That's why Unity North is so important to me. I am loved, treated respectfully, and am able to participate fully and authentically in this spiritual community. On the other hand, many churches today present themselves as welcoming to the LGBTQ plus community. But the welcome comes with conditions. We are welcome so that we can be saved, fixed, rescued from hell in our sinful life. In these churches, LGBTQ plus people are often still clobbered with the same rhetoric and verses we heard that drove us away in the first place. In these churches, we cannot be completely open. If we are open about our sexuality or gender expression, we can't serve in leadership roles. Sometimes we can't participate in communion or other spiritual rituals. But not here, not at Unity North. Look around. Look at your neighbors. Look at the folks sitting in this sanctuary, and let's be mindful of those online who are advocates. Unity North is an ally to the LGBTQ plus community. You, individually and as a congregation, demonstrate your allyship to the LGBTQ plus community in many ways. Unity North walks the walk of allyship. How? First, this service and your presence here today. Also, through the LGBTQ Friends ministry. We've had that ministry for many, many years. Through tithing to organizations that support the LGBTQ plus community. Through offering special speakers and events, and through the full integration of LGBTQ plus folks into the life of this church, including in roles of leadership. You have created an inclusive, loving, supportive, affirming spiritual home for all people. Unity North is not a so-called gay church, nor should it be. Unity North offers a loving, affirming community to all people. The diversity and inclusivity is what makes Unity North so remarkable. Unity teaches us that no one is broken. Nobody needs to be saved. Nobody's going to go to hell because of their sinful life. It teaches that each of us has a Christ essence that is valued and is in us to be expressed fully and completely. Here at Unity North, LGBTQ folks are affirmed and welcomed unconditionally into this spiritual community. You demonstrate your allyship, and that is a treasure that we cannot take for granted. Here at Unity North, Sylvie and I, along with so many others, have found our tribe. You are our peeps. You are our spiritual family. We are home at last. Mwah! Thank you.
I feel so blessed to be in such an incredibly rich and beautiful environment, and I bow for the wisdom and the strength and the courage been displayed here from this platform and every Sunday from this sanctuary.